Hi, and in this video we're going to look at producing tables in QPSMR Insight. So what I've got here is a project that's got a selection of questions. What we're going to do here is work through the basics of producing tables in QPSMR Insight. So let's look at the tables menu and see what we've got. And you'll see at the top here we've got easy tables, quick tables, open a tables file, and creating a top line set of tables. Well, if we click on the top line set of tables, we'll get just that. We can open up a top line set of tables and click OK and OK that, and we'll get out some very quick tables for every single question on our questionnaire. Okay, so let's close that. That's what we got there when we chose that option. Let's go to easy tables. And again, here we can choose which questions. We can use the shift and the control keys to select particular questions. And we can choose a banner or a column for those tables. And we've very quickly now got every question analysed by, or sorry, every question that I selected analysed by region. So that's sort of easy tables. The next sort of step up from that is quick tables. And this gives you a little bit more flexibility. So we go to quick tables. And again, now we can start to choose what we want on our tables. So we could, for example, choose region again. And we can pick the tables using the shift and control keys, or just pick one individual table. So let's pick this block of questions here. It tells me I've got 9 entries, and I can run that. And I get very similar looking tables here by the 3 regions. So let's have a look in a bit more detail now at the different options you've got when you're running these tables and what they mean. And let's look at the difference between opening a tables file and quick tables. Well, there isn't a huge difference between quick tables and opening a tables file in terms of what you get, but it's in terms of what is preserved that's the difference. So if you run quick tables, let's just run those nine tables again, you'll see that the output has come out in quick 001 tables.txt. Now if I just close that, those tables will be gone, and if I cancel this, QPS will know nothing about those tables if I go back to them in the future. Now we can preserve both those definitions of those tables and the output if we want to. So if we just do that just once more, let's pick 9 tables again, or some similar amount, and pick region again across the top and do that again. Now if I want to actually save those tables so that I've got the output, I can preserve those tables, and I can either preserve the view file, only the one I'm looking at, or also any associated files. That would include the spreadsheet of the tables that comes out as well, which we'll look at in a minute. All right, so that would preserve the output, but it still wouldn't preserve my specification of these 8 tables that I've got now by region. If I wanted to preserve those, I would have to open a tables file, because the minute I cancel this, even if I preserve the output from the tables, the selections that I've made here of the 8 questions that I picked by region would be discarded. All right, so that's the difference between quick tables and opening tables. Let's have a look round now at the options you've got available when you're doing either quick tables or you open a tables file, and then just in a moment we'll move on to actually opening a tables file. So let's have a look at global. What does that do? Well, the global lets us set various things. So we could put a project heading here. So we could put a heading saying this is my header, so that will come out the top of every page. In the top right hand corner here we can select the data files. Now my data file for this project is data exported.asc, and I could click into this and I could add more files for this. Now for many projects you'll have all your data in one file, but possibly, let's say you've got a tracking study that you're running every month, you might want to add in the data for January, February and March for one run, and then for another run you might want to put in the data for all months, January through to December, and run the same tables. So you can control the data files that you include or remove here for a particular run just by adding and removing data files. Now those data files must be in the same structure, otherwise you will need to do some data manipulation to get them in the same structure. But assuming they're in the same structure, you could just add various data files together and then you could run tables on more than one file. Now if you want to run an overall base for a set of tables, I've got 8 tables selected here. I could just select a filter here of gender. So I could just pick gender female. Okay, I could obviously type that in using syntax, which we've already seen in the QPSMR companion. And we've now got these tables filtered on females. Now that footnote is automatically put in so that you know that the tables are filtered on females. You can edit that, but it's quite an important reminder that it's less important with quick tables having that footnote used. I don't recommend that you delete it. When you've got a permanent set of tables that you've saved, if you don't have that footnote there, it is quite easy to run the tables and forget there's a filter on, or pass on those tables to somebody and they wouldn't necessarily know that the tables are filtered on females only. So it's good practice to keep that footnote or have a version of that footnote that is meaningful. All right, so we can move down the screen here now, and here's a chance to set options. Now I'm going to talk about options when I come to doing the main tables in a minute, but this is a chance to set options for the tables so that there's a default automatically selected. And what that is things like percentaging options, layout options, statistical tests that you might want. Now you can either choose those options from a list. So here they are here. If you don't know what they are, you can click on them and it will give you some clue. So decimal places, percentages. If I wanted to add that option as a global setting for all my tables, I could add that option and select 1, and that would give me 1 decimal place for every single table as the default. Respondent weighting, if the data is weighted by a value, I could weight that by, typically call that variable weight, but some other name. So if the data is weighted, I can pick up a variable that I want to weight by. And here I've got options to export my tables. Now by default, the tables will automatically come out in both a text format, as we saw at the screen just now, and a CSV file, so that we can use those tables in Excel. If we don't want that, we can click on no export and we wouldn't get the output there. And there's a checkbox over here which will turn off the TXT output if we only want spreadsheet. There is also an export that's available so that tables are exported to the XtabML layout. That's an XML representation of the tables. Here you can choose options for rounding the figures so they're the same as the tables in the text file. So tables in a text file are often rounded, so percentages, for example, will be rounded, numbers on the tables are rounded, and if you want them rounded the same way in the CSV file, you would check that box there. Now that's quite useful if you're doing charting sometimes, because people like to see exactly the same figures. If it says 49% on the table, for example, they might want to see 49% in the chart rather than 49.3. And then down here we've got some fairly detailed options for putting out markers and information so that if the data is exported or output as a CSV file, it's easier to be able to write macros or other programs that pick up those tables and automate various outputs like charts and reports. Here finally we've got an option for having a global footnote for significance testing, so that every table has that footnote showing that information of how the significance tests have been calculated. I'm going to take this filter back off now, so that it's not filtered. And all I've actually done here is actually putting a heading and a percentage option. And now if I run my tables, we'll see it's got, this is my header, and we've got 1 decimal place for each of my percentages. And again, I could preserve those tables. If I do preserve these tables, by the way, the next time I run quick tables, it will come out as quick 002 and so on. So each time you preserve a set of quick tables, it just steps up by 1 each time. Okay, so we've looked at global settings that you might set, and you can see that some of these options are also available on the table specification worksheet here. So for example, filter, we could specify a filter here and it would only apply to these tables. In the case of quick tables, a global setting of filters is the same as setting it for these particular tables. When you come to open tables, you could set a global filter, but for different sets of tables you could apply different filters. So again, we could just click into filter here, pick gender, pick female, run it, and our tables are now filtered on 332 people rather than the 821 that we had before. And likewise, you'll see down here the options. We could put any options that we wanted to set here and they would apply to the tables. Again, when we open tables in a minute, you'll see we can apply different options and different filters to selected tables. All right, so let's just work around this screen and look at what else we've got. So here under additional, you can supply other titles and footnotes that you want to apply just to the tables you're working on. And in here, you can choose region. You can just type in the region there. If I just type in the word gender, that would replace it with gender. Or you can use this button to select the question or variables that you want. Now this checkbox here means that if you have a filter applied to the variable you're selecting, it will apply that to the table as well. Now by default, it will apply any filters applied to the rows, but it won't apply filters chosen for the columns unless, of course, you switch the checkboxes here and here. So if you've got a filter on a particular question, that will be applied automatically if it's a row, but not if it's a column. But you can turn that round the other way or select neither or both as you so desire. If you choose only one row, let's just pick question 5 here, you'll see rather than various, the word Q5 and the title that you've chosen for the table will appear. And now we'll just get one table, and that's come out by gender. All right, so we've worked around this screen, and the weight you'll see down the bottom there is the same as the weight we talked about before. Now, it's quite common that you actually want to set a whole set of tables up. So let's go in and make a set of tables now and open a tables file. And these tables, both their instructions and their outputs, will be preserved. So I'm going to set up some tables here called My Tables and open that file. And now I'm going to go into Insert a Table. Everything looks exactly the same, but it doesn't actually run it now. So if I pick gender here and I pick, let's just pick region in question 5, 2 tables, and I apply a filter. Let's pick people here at question 3 who are in the USA. There we go. I've now set up 2 tables or 2 questions by 1 column, and I've selected a filter. I've clicked OK. Now all that happens when you open up a tables file is they get saved into this worksheet here, and they'll just number sequentially automatically. If I choose another table now, and let's pick question BQ7A and take off the filter and add another table, you can see I've got a 3rd table in without a filter. And when I want to see the results from those 3 tables, I have to run it. So I run it. And I just need to choose a data file. I hadn't done that there. It's not been set, so I can just pick my data file, click OK, and run these tables. And I've got 3 tables out. There's 70 people based in USA, region by region, and then question 5 by region, and further down I've got question 7a in ranges by region. So I've got my 3 tables, and if we go to the folder in which they're stored, you'll see here I've got the tables in a CSV file format. So these are exactly the same tables. So there's my top line tables I've just opened there. If I open my tables here, you'll see there's the 3 tables we've just generated with question 5 by region in a spreadsheet format. And there is a video that shows you how to get that into a spreadsheet for charting separately. All right, so let's close those tables and come back to our project here. So what we've done here, we've saved these tables, and if I close this, whereas with quick tables they'd be forgotten, I can come back to this at any time I want to, open up my tables, and there they are, preserved, and I can use them, add tables to them, delete them, renumber them. Lots of facilities in here to handle those tables, which are covered in a bit more detail in the QPSMR Insight Up and Running series of videos. So that's an introduction to getting tables set up. But the other thing that you might want to do when you do tables is you might want to construct some variables from the questions that you've got. So and perhaps make a banner that applies to lots of different tables. So let's quickly do that. Let's look at question 6, which has a number of employees in the business. If I do a quick table on that, I can get an idea of what sort of numbers. The average is 273. So I'm going to put some ranges in here, and I'm going to put a variable in after question 6. Now, if you want a variable from question 6, you have to have the cursor set after it. If I put the cursor there, it will not allow me to define a variable from question 6. It has to be somewhere after it. Some people put them all at the bottom, which is a perfectly good place to put them, of course, as well. But let's insert a variable. I'm going to call it VQ6. I'm going to make it single. Just call it Q6 in ranges here. And I can make a variable that inserts Q6 as being in the range of 1 to 200. Add another response, Q6, which is 201 to 500. If you don't know how to use the syntax, you can click on the definition button, insert question 6, and I'm going to pick more than 500 as my third category, and OK that and save it. So that's a way of putting a question into a variable so that you can combine answers together. Indeed, variables can go much further than that. They can put any information from different questions together, and there is a video that covers that in this series, and another one in the QPSMR Insight Up and Running series. And finally, at the end here, I'm going to put a variable in that I'm going to use for analysing my questions, and I'm going to call this analysis breaks. Some people call them banners, and I'm calling these analysis breaks. And let's say we want gender, region, and something perhaps from another question. So let's block insert gender, block insert region, and let's block insert, or let's insert from question 3, answer 2, which is the USA. And let's say we want to compare the USA data with non-USA, so we could say Q3 not 2, and again we can use the definition button to choose that. OK, and what we might do now is we might want another subtotal in here for South or Central, so we could insert a response here which was region 2 to 3, which is South or Central. So we haven't got to show things exactly as they are in the questions. We can combine things together or add other things in, or we can delete some of these if we don't want them. Now typically you'll put headers in here, so the way you do that is by typing the header followed by a backslash, and the region will do the same with. and the country here. We're going to do the same, which now means we've got a variable with 7 different things in it. You can, or 8 different things in it. You can have up to 9,199 there, so there's no serious limits there in QPS. And you can see that these are variables we define because there's a butterfly symbol there rather than a question. So let's just save that, and now we can do either a quick table or add it to our set of tables if we want to. So let's just do a quick table to see if that looks good. So we're going to pick the analysis breaks, and for the rows I'm going to pick that question 6 that I grouped together, or VQ6, run it, and you can see now that we've got 45% are 1 to 200 employees, the rest are 201 to 500, and no one's greater than 500. And we've got that split by gender, region and country, all on the same page. If it was too much to fit on one page, it would automatically overflow in the text tables, whereas when we look at the quick tables here in the CSV file, you'll see that it would carry on straight across the page for as many columns as you happen to have. These markers are very useful here in the CSV table. They tell you what sort of data is in each row. So C8 is the column headings, column labels, the total row is RT, the RW are the rows with the whole numbers in, the PV are the percentages, and so on. So each of those letters there indicates what's in the row of the spreadsheet. Let's close that. If we wanted to preserve those tables, we could do that. And if we preserve them, they would be saved, and even if we've done some more tables, the output would be saved. But as it's a quick table here, as I said earlier, that would be discarded. So that completes this video on introducing you to doing tables. When you're using the QPSMR companion, you move over to the classic program, or QPSMR Insight, or if you have a CATI license, QPSMR CATI, to do your tables. But this has given you an introduction to it. There are some fuller videos that take you through some of the more detailed and more complex things that you can do in tables, but hopefully that should get you started. Thank you.